The bridge of the Vorac dreadnought Worldbreaker hummed with the low predatory growl of active weapon systems. Crimson light bathed the obsidian walls, casting jagged shadows across the command deck. High Commander Vex'zhal stood at the central holodisplay, his scaled fingers tracing the blue-green curve of Earth with a dismissive flick. Bioluminescent scars pulsed along his ridged spine, trophies from 100 conquered worlds. Pathetic, he hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air. No orbital defenses, no fleet signatures, just silence. Around him, Vorac officers chittered in agreement, their clawed hands dancing across glowing consoles. The hologram zoomed in on Earth's major cities, New York, Moscow, Shanghai, all soft pulsing targets. Admiral Lisa Hayes clenched her fists behind her back, the magnetic cuffs around her wrists humming softly. A fresh bruise darkened her cheek where a Vorac guard had struck her during capture, but her spine stayed rigid. She watched Vex'zhal's reflection warp in the polished black floor. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Vex'zhal turned slowly, his slit pupils narrowing. "Ah, the human finally speaks." He circled her like a predator toying with prey. "Tell me, Admiral, where is your famous Terran navy? Where are your mighty warships?" Lisa didn't flinch. "You scanned the system. You tell me." A ripple of laughter spread through the bridge. Vex'zhal's second-in-command Subcommander Crix leaned against a console, his tail lashing. "She's bluffing. Our sensors detected nothing but civilian freighters and a few outdated defense platforms." Vex'zhal tapped a claw against the holodisplay. Earth's image flickered. "The galactic record lists humanity as A-tier, face species, barely spacefaring, no FTL capabilities until recently." He smirked, revealing needle-sharp fangs. "Did you really think you could stand against the Vorac Dominion?" Lisa's lips twitched. Not a smile, not quite. "We've been listening to aliens underestimate us for decades. Funny how that always ends the same way." Crix snorted. Brave words for a prisoner. The bridge shuddered as the Worldbreaker's massive plasma lances powered up, their cores glowing like miniature suns. Outside the viewports, Mars hung in the distance, its rust-colored surface scarred by Vorac excavation drones. "Enough games," Vex'zhal said. He straightened to his full height, his crest flaring. "This system is ours by right of conquest. Your people will kneel, or they will burn." He gestured to the comm officer. "Open a channel to Earth's leaders. Let them hear their fate from your lips, Admiral." Lisa exhaled slowly as a holographic microphone shimmered into existence before her. The entire bridge fell silent. Vorac crewmen leaned forward, eager for her surrender. She met Vex'zhal's gaze. "You want a message?" Her voice didn't waver. "Tell your fleet to look behind them." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Crix burst into harsh, grating laughter. "Desperate lies. Our sensors would have High Commander." The sensor officer's voice cracked like a whip. Zurich, a young Vorac with emerald scales, stabbed at his console. "Anomaly detected near the asteroid belt. Energy spikes. Vex'zhal world. Show me." The holodisplay flickered, zooming out. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter shimmered, not with rocks but with distortion, as if space itself was breathing. Lisa's cuffs clicked open. She rubbed her wrists, her smile sharpening. "You assumed Earth had no defenses." The distortion pulsed. Then space tore open. The United Earth Senate chamber hummed with nervous energy, its domed ceiling flickering with holographic projections of the Vorac blockade. Dozens of ships, each larger than Earth's mightiest carriers, formed an impenetrable ring around the planet. Senator Marcus Cole wiped sweat from his brow as he stared at the display, his polished shoes tapping an uneven rhythm against the marble floor. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate," he began, voice cracking slightly. "We've received the Vorac ultimatum." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A young aide dropped a datapad, the clatter echoing like gunfire in the tense silence. General Jake Morrison stood motionless near the central podium, his uniform crisp, his face unreadable. His eyes never left the hologram of the Worldbreaker, its obsidian hull bristling with weapons that could glass cities in seconds. The chamber doors hissed open. All heads turned as Vorac emissary Craxil strode in, his scaled boots clicking against the floor. His reptilian snout curled in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of needle. Like teeth, 2 armored guards flanked him, their plasma rifles humming with barely restrained energy. "Humans," Craxil said, his voice a sibilant rasp. "How delightful to see you gathered like this. It saves us the trouble of hunting you down individually." Senator Cole swallowed hard. "Emissary Craxil, the United Earth government is willing to negotiate terms." Craxil laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Negotiate? You have nothing to negotiate with." He gestured lazily at the hologram. "Your pitiful orbital defenses were disabled within minutes. Your so-called fleet consists of outdated patrol vessels. The Vorac Dominion does not negotiate with prey." A senator from the European bloc slammed his fist on the table. "We are not prey. Earth has survived worse than your silence." Craxil's slit pupils dilated, his bioluminescent markings flaring crimson. "You will surrender unconditionally. Your cities will be spared, provided you kneel." He leaned forward, claws digging into the polished wood of the speaker's podium. "Resist, and we will reduce your world to cinders." The chamber erupted. Some senators shouted defiance. Others whispered frantic pleas for reason. A few had already begun drafting surrender documents on their tablets, fingers trembling. General Morrison hadn't moved. Craxil noticed. The famous General Morrison. He circled the human like a predator sizing up wounded game. "Tell me, General, where is your vaunted human resilience now? Where are your fleets, your weapons?" Morrison finally turned his head, meeting Craxil's gaze. "You scanned our orbital defenses." Craxil snorted. "Child's play, your satellites, your pathetic railgun platforms all gone. You scanned the asteroid belt." The Vorac emissary paused. "Asteroids are irrelevant." Morrison's lips twitched, just slightly. Senator Cole wiped his forehead again. "General, if you have any alternative to surrender, now is the time." Craxil cut him off. "There is no alternative? Your species has no fleet, no weapons, no hope." He spread his claws. "This is not war. This is mercy." A low chime sounded from Morrison's wrist comm. He glanced at it, then tapped a single button, deep in the lunar bunkers, hidden beneath mountains of regolith. A dormant system activated. Craxil didn't notice. He was too busy savoring the fear in the room. "Your leaders will present their unconditional surrender within the hour," he announced, "or we begin glassing your eastern hemisphere." Morrison finally spoke, his voice calm. "Emissary Craxil." The Vorac turned, annoyed. "What? You should have scanned deeper." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Craxil's scaled face. "What are you?" A red alert blared on every screen in the chamber. The holograms flickered, then shifted, showing not the Vorac blockade, but the asteroid belt, where 300 human warships had just decloaked. The lunar bunker hummed with suppressed energy, its reinforced walls lined with schematics that flickered in the dim blue light. General Jake Morrison's boots echoed against the metal floor as he strode past rows of engineers hunched over glowing consoles. Their faces were tight with anticipation, fingers dancing across holographic displays. Dr. Elena Petrov looked up from her workstation, her dark eyes sharp behind a pair of cracked glasses. "General," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "We're ready." Morrison didn't smile. He couldn't afford to. "Not yet, status." Petrov tapped a command into her console. The central holoprojector flared to life, revealing a 3-dimensional map of the solar system. Earth glowed at the center, surrounded by the red markers of the Vorac blockade. But beyond them, hidden in the asteroid belt, were hundreds of faint blue signatures, ghosts waiting to be called. "Project Aegis is operational," Petrov said. "All ships report green status. cloaking fields holding at 98% efficiency. A door hissed open behind them, and Captain Ryan Blake stepped inside. His uniform was crisp, but his jaw was set like steel. "They're moving troops to the surface," he said without preamble. "Vorac shuttles are descending over New York, Tokyo, Berlin. They think we're defenseless." Morrison's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. "Then it's time to remind them what humanity does to invaders." He turned to Petrov. "Activate the fleet." For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Then Petrov's hands flew across the controls. A deep, resonant thrum pulsed through the bunker, vibrating in their bones. The hologram shimmered, the blue signatures flaring bright as the cloaking fields disengaged. One by one, the ships appeared on the display. The USN Defiance, its railgun batteries humming with stored energy. The USN Atlantica, its gravity lance primed for the first strike. The USN Retribution, flanked by a swarm of nimble fighter squadrons, 300 warships, hidden for years, now unveiled in an instant. Blake exhaled sharply. "God, that's a beautiful sight." Morrison allowed himself a grim smile. "The Vorac won't think so." He tapped his comm. "All captains. This is Morrison. Operation Aegis is live. Engage at will." Across the asteroid belt, engines roared to life. Thrusters flared as the human fleet surged forward, cutting through the void like silent predators. Petrov adjusted her glasses, her voice barely above a whisper. "They never even looked." Blake grinned. "That's the point." Morrison watched the hologram as the first human ships reached the edge of the blockade. The Vorac hadn't noticed yet. Their scanners were still blind, their arrogance still intact. It wouldn't last. "Initiate targeting protocols," Morrison ordered. "Priority to the Worldbreaker." A chorus of acknowledgements crackled over the comm. The Defiance's railgun turrets rotated, locking onto the Vorac dreadnought's bridge. Petrov's fingers hovered over the final command. "On your mark, General." Morrison didn't hesitate. Mark. The hologram erupted in light as the first hypervelocity round tore through space. The trap was sprung. The Worldbreaker's massive plasma engines hummed as the Vorac fleet moved into position above Earth. High Commander Vex'zhal lounged in his command throne, his bioluminescent scars pulsing with satisfaction below. The blue planet hung defenseless. Or so he thought. "Begin deployment," he ordered, his forked tongue flicking out. "Let the humans watch as we claim their world." Vorac dropships detached from their carriers, descending toward key cities. On the bridge, Lisa Hayes stood bound between two armored guards, her face bruised, but her eyes burning. "You're making a mistake," she said. Vex'zhal chuckled, the sound like grinding stones. "Your pitiful species had its chance to surrender. Now you will learn the price of defiance." Lisa smirked. "You didn't even scan properly, did you?" The Vorac commander's slit pupils narrowed. "We detected nothing. No fleet, no orbital defenses, just emptiness." "Exactly." Before Vex'zhal could respond, Sensor Officer Zurich suddenly stiffened, his claws scrambling over his console. "High Commander, energy spikes, multiple signatures." The bridge lights flickered, the holographic display of Earth shimmered, then exploded with red markers. Vex'zhal surged to his feet. "Where?" "Everywhere." Zurich's voice cracked. "The asteroid belt, the lunar shadow zone." There, space rippled. One moment, there was nothing. The next, 300 human warships materialized point blank, their angular hulls gleaming under Earth's sunlight. The lead vessel, the USN Defiance, locked its railguns directly onto the Worldbreaker's bridge. Lisa laughed. Surprise. Alarms blared across the Vorac fleet. Gunners scrambled to their stations, but it was too late. The human ships had already acquired firing solutions. Captain Ryan Blake's voice crackled over the Defiance's comms. "Vorac vessels, this is your only warning. Power down your weapons and surrender, or be destroyed." Vex'zhal's claws dug into his armrests. "Impossible. Where did they?" Lisa yanked free from her stunned guards. You scanned for active signatures, but we've been running silent for months. Outside, the human fleet moved with terrifying precision. Fighters launched in swarms, their engines flaring as they streaked toward Vorac escorts. The Defiance's railgun arrays hummed, charging to full power. Zirich's console lit up with damage projections. Shields won't hold against that firepower, Vex'zhal snarled. Return fire, all batteries, target their lead ship. Plasma lances erupted from the Worldbreaker, but the Defiance's point, defense systems shredded the volley mid-flight. Then, with a thunderous crack, the human railguns fired. The hypervelocity round punched through the dreadnought shields like paper. The impact rocked the bridge, throwing Vorac crew to the deck. Smoke poured from shattered consoles. Lisa lunged for a fallen guard's sidearm, snapping off a shot that dropped the other. She bolted for the exit, dodging panicked crew. After her, Vex'zhal bellowed. But it was chaos. More human ships opened fire. The USN Atlanticus Gravity lances twisted space, crushing a Vorac cruiser into a ball of scrap. Fighters weaved through the formation, missiles streaking into engine nacelles. Lisa reached a maintenance corridor, slamming the lock behind her. She sprinted toward the hangar bay, her mind racing. If she could commandeer a shuttle, back on the bridge, Vex'zhal gripped his console as another railgun strike shuddered through the ship. Fall back, reform the line. But the Vorac fleet was already breaking. Ships collided in their haste to retreat. The Defiance's fighters harried them, picking off stragglers. Zirich looked up, his scales pale. High Commander, we've lost the Dusk Talon and the Bloodfang. The Ravager is adrift. Vex'zhal's roar drowned him out. How? How did they hide this? In the hangar, Lisa blasted the last guard standing between her and a Vorac assault shuttle. She leapt into the cockpit, fingers flying over the alien controls. The engines flared to life. As the shuttle streaked away from the crippled Worldbreaker, she opened a channel to the Defiance. Captain Blake, Lisa Hayes, requesting pickup before you turn that overgrown lizard into scrap. Blake's voice held a grin. Welcome back, Admiral. We've got you. Outside, the battle raged. Human ships advanced, their weapons carving through Vorac hulls. The tide had turned, and Earth's defenders weren't just holding the line, they were winning. The first railgun round struck the Worldbreaker's forward shields like a hammer of God. The impact sent tremors through the massive dreadnought's spine, rattling teeth in Vorac's skulls, and throwing Vex'zhal against his command throne. Alarms shrieked as the bridge lighting flickered to emergency crimson. Shields at Fay, Zirich screamed, his claws slipping on the console. They're firing again. Outside the viewports, space erupted. The USN Defiance hung like a spectre of death, its angular hull shimmering as it cycled another hypervelocity round. Along its flanks, missile bays yawned open, unleashing a swarm of smart munitions that twisted through the void like hunting serpents. Return fire, Vex'zhal roared, his bioluminescent scars pulsing with rage. All batteries, target that human ship. Plasma lances lashed out from the Worldbreaker, but the Defiance rolled gracefully, its point defense turrets shredding incoming fire with pinpoint accuracy. On the Defiance's bridge, Captain Ryan Blake watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, assigning targets with surgical precision. Elm. Bring us about, target their engine nacelles. Gunnery, I want their comms array gone before they can scream for help. Aye, Captain, Lieutenant Chen replied, her hands flying over her console. Fighters launching now. From the Defiance's belly, squadrons of Wasp-class interceptors streaked into the fray, their afterburners painting the black with blue fire. They weaved through the Vorac fleet, their railguns spitting tungsten death into exposed thruster arrays. Meanwhile, Lisa Hayes moved through the Worldbreaker's corridors like a ghost. The explosion had knocked out power to her holding cell, and Shed made her escape in the chaos. A stolen plasma pistol burned in her grip as she rounded a corner, coming face to face with a pair of Vorac Marines. Their surprise lasted half a second. Hayes fired twice. The first shot took the lead Marine in the throat, melting through his scales. The second punched through the other's chest, sending him crashing into the bulkhead. She didn't pause, snatching a grenade from the dead Marine's belt and priming it as she ran. Back in the battle, the US and Atlantica entered the fray, its massive gravity lance humming with pent-up energy. Captain Blake's voice crackled over the fleet-wide comms. All ships execute hammerfall. Let's show these lizards what happens when you poke the bear. The Atlantica fired. Space itself seemed to warp as the gravity lance struck a Vorac cruiser amidships. The vessel's hull groaned, then collapsed inward like a crushed soda can. Atmosphere and bodies vented into the void as the ship folded in on itself, vanishing in a flash of twisted metal on the Worldbreaker. Vex'zhal watched his fleet disintegrate. His comms officer turned to him, mandibles trembling. High Commander, the Dusk Talon and Void Claw are gone. The humans, they're tearing through us. Vex'zhal's claws dug into his throne's armrests. Impossible. These are humans. They shouldn't have this kind of firepower. A new voice cut through the chaos. Lisa Hayes, broadcasting from a stolen Vorac shuttle. You assumed we were weak, she said, her voice ice cold. Now witness human wrath. The shuttle's engines flared as she punched it toward the Defiance, dodging through the maelstrom of battle. Behind her, the Worldbreaker's shields finally failed under the relentless barrage. The Defiance's railguns spoke again. This time, there was nothing to stop the round. It struck the dreadnought's bridge tower dead center, shearing through meters of reinforced armor. The explosion lit up the void, casting the human fleet in stark relief as they pressed their attack. Vorac ships floundered, their formations breaking as captains panicked and fled. Blake watched the Worldbreaker's death throes with grim satisfaction. All ships advance, clean up the stragglers, leave none standing. The battle wasn't over. But the tide had turned. The Worldbreaker shuddered as another railgun round slammed into its starboard side. Vex'zhal's claws dug into his command throne, his bioluminescent scars pulsing red with fury. Return fire. All batteries target that human flagship. Outside the viewport, space had become a storm of light and death. The Vorac fleet, once a perfectly ordered armada, now twisted in disarray. Ships collided in their panic to evade the sudden onslaught. Human fighters, small, agile, and relentless, darted between the larger vessels, their plasma lances carving glowing wounds into Vorac hulls. Lisa Hayes crouched in the dim corridor of a stolen Vorac shuttle, her fingers flying over the alien console. The vessel lurched as she rerouted power from life support to engines. Behind her, the crumpled forms of two Vorac guards lay motionless. She'd taken their sidearms, one still warm in her grip. A proximity alert blared. She glanced at the screen, 3 Vorac interceptors breaking formation to pursue her. Not today, she muttered, slamming the throttle forward. The shuttle groaned but obeyed, streaking toward the heart of the battle. On the bridge of the USN Defiance, Captain Ryan Blake watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. His fleet moved like a single organism, striking with surgical precision. Focus fire on their command ships, he ordered. Break their chain of command. The Atlantica, looming like a steel titan beside the Defiance, powered up its primary weapon. Dr. Petrov's voice crackled over the comm. Gravity lance at 90%, 30 seconds to firing solution. Blake nodded. Make it count. Across the battlefield, Vex'zhal's sensor officer Zurich let out a guttural hiss. High Commander, energy spike from the human dreadnought. It's unlike anything in our databases. Vex'zhal's crest flared. Evasive maneuvers. Now, too late. The Atlantica fired. A beam of distorted space rippled outward, invisible until it struck. The Vorac cruiser Dusk Talon shuddered, then collapsed inward like crushed paper. Its hull folded, decks compacting, atmosphere venting in a silent scream. Within seconds, the once proud warship was nothing but a compressed ball of scrap. Lisa's shuttle rocked in the wake of the blast. She steadied the controls, her breath coming fast. On the open comms, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. You assumed we were weak. Every human ship, every Vorac vessel, every drifting piece of wreckage heard Lisa Hayes' transmission. Her voice was calm, cold. Now witness human wrath. The Defiance's railguns fired again. This time, the rounds tore through the Worldbreaker's weakened shields. The dreadnought's bridge erupted in sparks and smoke. Vex'zhal was thrown from his throne, his scales scraping against the deck. Outside, the human fleet pressed the advantage. Fighters swarmed Vorac destroyers, their coordinated strikes overwhelming point. Defense systems. The Retribution, silent until now, unleashed its payload, a swarm of guided torpedoes that snaked through the battlefield, each finding a Vorac engine core. One by one, the Dominion ships fell. Lisa guided her shuttle toward the Defiance, dodging debris and stray plasma fire. Her console beeped an incoming hail. Blake's face appeared on the screen. About time you showed up, Admiral, she smirked. Had some trash to take out first. Behind her, the last of the Vorac interceptors exploded, caught in the crossfire of a human frigate's broadside. Vex'zhal clawed his way back to his feet. His bridge was in ruins, his crew dead or dying. The holographic display flickered, showing the remains of his fleet. Less than half remained. The humans had done the impossible. They'd turned the tide in minutes. His comm crackled. A human channel, Blake's voice filled the ruined bridge. Vorac Dominion flagship Worldbreaker. This is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earth starship Defiance. You have one chance to surrender. Vex'zhal's crest flattened in defeat. His scars dimmed from red to a sickly grey around him. The few surviving officers waited for his order. Outside, the human fleet regrouped, their weapons still trained on the crippled Vorac vessels. The battle wasn't over, but the outcome was certain. The bridge of the USN Defiance hummed with subdued energy, the glow of tactical displays reflecting off the sweat, streaked faces of the crew. Captain Ryan Blake stood at the center of it all, his hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the wreckage strewn across Earth's orbit. Vorac ships, once proud and menacing, now floated as broken husks, their jagged hulls glinting in the sunlight. A few escape pods jettisoned from the crippled vessels, their trajectories tracked by the Defiance's sensors. All Vorac capital ships accounted for, reported Lieutenant Chen from the tactical station. Survivors are signaling surrender. Blake nodded. Open a channel to the Atlantica and Retribution. Tell them to secure the wreckage and prepare for prisoner transfer. The doors to the bridge hissed open, and Lisa Hayes stepped through, her uniform torn and smeared with grime, but her posture unbroken. A fresh bruise darkened her cheek, but her eyes burned with quiet triumph. Captain, she said, offering a tired salute. Blake returned it. Admiral, good to see you in one piece. Hayes smirked. Takes more than a Vorac warlord to keep me down. Behind her, two Marines dragged in a shackled figure, High Commander Vex'zhal, his bioluminescent scars. Once a vibrant display of arrogance, now flickered weakly, their glow dimmed by defeat. His slit pupils narrowed as they locked onto Blake. You, Vex'zhal hissed, his voice a rasp of fury. This was a trick, a coward's gambit. Blake stepped forward, his expression unreadable. No, this was strategy. You assumed we had no defenses. You assumed we would roll over and die. He gestured to the view screen, where the remnants of the Vorac fleet drifted. Look at your mistake. Vex'zhal's scaled fists clenched, the chains rattling. We scanned your system. There was no fleet. Hayes crossed her arms, because we wanted you to see nothing. Project Aegis wasn't just about hiding ships. It was about making you believe we were weak. A flicker of something like realization passed over Vex'zhal's face, but it was quickly swallowed by rage. You think this changes anything? The Dominion has thousands of ships. This defeat means nothing. Blake leaned in, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. It means everything. You came here thinking Earth was defenseless, Now the entire galaxy will know the truth. He straightened, turning to the comm officer. Broadcast this on all channels. Let every species hear it. The officer nodded, fingers flying over the console. Live in 321. Blake faced the feed, his voice carrying across the stars. This is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earth Space Navy. The Vorac Dominion attacked our home, believing we had no means to resist. They were wrong. Behind him, the wreckage of the Worldbreaker loomed, its shattered hull a silent testament. To any who would threaten Earth, understand this. We do not hide because we fear you. We hide because we hunt you. The transmission ended, and silence settled over the bridge. Vex'zhal let out a low, guttural sound. You have made a grave enemy today, human. Hayes chuckled. Funny, we were just thinking the same thing about you. Blake motioned to the Marines. Take him to the brig. The Senate will decide his fate. As Vex'zhal was led away, Hayes exhaled, the weight of the last hours finally catching up to her. What now? Blake glanced at the stars beyond the viewscreen. Now we rebuild, now we prepare. He turned to her, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Because they won't underestimate us again. Outside, the Defiance's engines hummed, the ship turning toward Earth. Behind it, the remnants of the battle drifted, a graveyard of Vorac arrogance, and a warning to the galaxy humanity had drawn its line in the stars, and the universe would remember.